Welcome to the Been There, Done That podcast with Angela Dunn-Cartledge. Hey there, it's Angela from Been There, Done That. If you're navigating the wild, unpredictable world of grief, I want to invite you to something special. It's called Messy Mornings, and it's our free weekly newsletter filled with real talk, gentle reminders, and support that actually meets you where you are. Each week, I'll send you stories, reflections, healing prompts straight to your inbox. No fluff, no pressure, just the space to release, feel, and heal. You don't have to do this alone. Head over to dunnthatpodcast.com and sign up for Messy Mornings. It's totally free and it's made with you in mind. I've been there, and let's walk through this together. Hi, everybody. You're listening to the Been There, Done That podcast, and I'm your host, Angela Dunn-Cartledge. I can't wait to have this conversation today with my new good friend, Erica Weiderleit, and we are going to talk about all things healing, all things grieving, all the wonderfulness that comes out of this beautiful conversation. So, Erica, thank you so very much for being here.
Well, thank you. I'm jazzed. I'm just jazzed because I think this is such an important conversation. So thank you so much.
I'm so glad to be here with you. So I will let you tell our audience who you are, what you bring to the world, and what we're going to talk about today.
Yay! So I'll give a quick background. I always say to people, I never expected myself to be here, and it was very much orchestrated by something bigger than me because I never could have dreamt this up. It's just too wacky and crazy. But for me, I started my journey as a fall to your knees type moment. I was in a situation years ago where I had a parent in crisis from a cancer diagnosis. I was dealing with a very traumatic breakup and dealing with my own personal turmoil that manifested as an eating disorder. And so I was in one of those, and I lied, I'm sorry. And I also had two friends pass away. And it was kind of like, you know, what do you do? And this is so outrageous and so much grief and suffering. And through my journey, I slowly started to learn about healing modalities and, and it was just from a place of helping my mother who was sick, and helping me to survive. You know what I mean? Like it was just, I was like, I didn't think about a business. It was just pure survival. And from that place, I became so interested. And because I was so, on my knees type moment, like what, and it was helping me, or it was helping me process and cope, I was like, I have to give this to other people. And again, not from a place of a business. It was like I was doing my job. I have an acting background. I was going to auditions during the day, and at night I was inviting people over. And people were like, this is like a coaching session, or this is like a group session. I'm like, no, stop. So it was like, no way, it's not happening. But it was out of a place of, if this could help me, and I thought nothing could help me, I just want to pass this on. It was just a real desire to be of service. And so then it naturally progressed. Like I said, quote unquote, coaching sessions and group sessions, they started to form. And then I, of course, got trained in multiple modalities and certifications. And then about, I want to say a few years into my business, maybe 5 to 7 years, can't do math for the life of me, but 5 to 7 years into my business, I again had a little bit of a dark night of the soul, if you will. And I remember I had this like beautiful Buddha parchment paper above my bed. I'm really going into the weeds. I remember I had this like beautiful parchment Buddha picture above me, and above my bed. And I remember looking, and it was like, eventually you're going to be, I got the download of, eventually you're going to be initiated into the world of sacred sexuality and embodiment. And I was like, what? And I was like, this is I was like, what is it? Like, get out of here. Like, that's wild. And wouldn't you know, I had no interest of, like I quite literally again fell into the work of pleasure, the work of deep embodiment, the work of sacred sexuality and pleasure. And again, my brain could have never I didn't even know what that was. So I could never have, but then I went down that path. And so now where I'm at is, of course, coaching, right? So I still do coaching, but a fundamental practice, or my practice, or what I believe in, is using pleasure as a healing modality. So not just a cherry on top, not just, like really as a way to heal, as a way to process, and as a way to live our life, which is so radical for most of us.
Completely. Yes, it definitely isn't what we're taught, especially as women. So I want to start. I don't even know where to start.
I know I
Let's go.
give you my whole life tale.
Fantastic. No, it's where it's the fact that there's so many facets. That's what I
Yes.
love about doing this work, is that meeting people and connecting with people on this level is so amazing, because we get to know each other at a very vulnerable and intimate level very quickly, because
Yeah.
this topic is not one that we can just talk about and then move on with our day. We're connected within that framework. So I really am so I'm like I said before, I'm just excited that we're here and that we get
Yes.
to do this, because I know so many people will learn from it. So let's start with your on your knees moment, because that was
Yes.
that was really where you started, but let's start there. And what you took from that was ways to heal yourself and ways to keep the path moving for your mom. And you wanted to help other people with that. How did you um, how did you take that first step?
I love that. That's such a good question because, as you know, when you're in the thick of it, it's like, what does that even mean? What does that even look like? So I'm actually reflecting back. I'm like, what was the first step? I can't even identify it, but I can know I was like, I have to do something. And it almost didn't matter. Because I'm like, what did I do? And I think for me, it was like, I'm just taking a step out of this, like out of this zone. And from there, like, again, it's so corny, but I can't lie. Like, this is really how it happened. It was like, just take a step, just take a step. It doesn't matter what step. And from there, these things started. Like, again, I couldn't have made it up. And I hate to be corny and woo woo, but like I couldn't have made it up, like
That's
how the things happened.
that's exactly what I hoped you would say,
Yeah.
because to me, there are so many people out there that think that they need this giant neon sign or some kind of a roadmap that they can follow on how can I do this, how can I heal, how can I move through this season. And especially with the way that you described your season, there was a lot of things in there. I mean, just a
Yeah.
lot of, um, I feel like you're standing in like a batter's box, and it's not just one pitcher throwing a ball. There were 12,
Yep.
and they were all whizzing fastballs at you as fast as they could.
Yes.
So in that moment, I feel like, just to your point, we all have these acute on our knees moments where we are sitting there trying to figure out what to do next. And it is so critical to hear you say, I just needed to take one step. We aren't asking for our audience or anybody to run the marathon
Oh
without
no.
practicing, without taking one step first, right? So you took your first step, and like you described, you started asking friends if they needed help, and your friends were like, "Wow, you're different. I want to know what you're doing. Let's jump in." How did you decide what they needed
Mm.
over what you used, or was it the same thing? How
Oh, I
did you
love that. I love that. It's so funny, and I haven't mentioned this in a while, but I would say this a lot years ago when I first started, we'll say the business, but at the time I just thought I was, but the business. Um, I always, because I have worked with so many coaches, so many therapists. Again, I'm certified. I'm a Virgo, so I'm a lifelong learner. So I have 4,000 certifications just because I'm curious. Everyone's like, go. I'm like, I'm just curious. But I always would say, you feel when someone just read a book or took a course and is regurgitating things back. And so for me, I always would say that. I'm like, that's not my jam. First of all, I'm not going to give you a tool. I'm not going to give you something that I have not walked the walk and talked the talk. also we're very different people. So it's my responsibility not only to be like, hey, these are things that work for me, but also educate myself in modalities that may resonate better for them. You know what I mean? Though I pretend I love visualization or embodiment, someone might be like, that feels too triggering. I want more traditional, talk therapy or a tool like this. And so uh, I always would say that, like, I am really not about regurgitating information. I've had to have walk the walk, talk the talk. That feels very, very crucial for me. And also something that's, I should say, that is important in my work is, yes, empowering folks, here's tools, here's systems. But a huge part of my work is also, how do I say, empowering folks to know that
Intuition.
they're the one. Like they're the one. So I always say, hey, I have some thoughts about where I want to go today. If they bring something cool, I have some thoughts. However, you're in charge. If you're like, I don't like this feels incorrect. The whole point is, because then we get into a cycle of you relying on me. Like it's ripping your power out and giving it to me. And then we do that with life, right? Like we give our power to different people and circumstances. And so that is a huge component of my work. Yes, I have some intuition on this. You're the leader. If that feels uncomfortable, if it doesn't jam, my favorite sessions, I'll say this, I have people that are like, can we stop for a second? I'm like, of course, what's going on? And they're like, this is really weird, but can we do like a dance break or can we do this instead? I'm like, absolutely. Let's go. Like, my job is, yes, to facilitate, hold space, but also to be on the ride and hold them and cheer them on when they're like, I want to go here. And I'm like, yes, we are. Let's follow your intuition.
I love that. And I think that because it's so individual,
Yep.
that makes so much sense to be able to allow that person, because essentially you're giving them permission, but you're also empowering them and sort of creating that safe container for them to be able to sort of figure out what they want to do. And I think that is really, really cool. I love the concept that you take what they bring and then sort of I imagine, I don't know if you know the Tony Stark,
Okay.
Iron Man movie, where
Yeah.
he has this little, like, image, and then he does this with his hands, and it
Mm.
completely blows into pieces. Like,
Yes.
that's what I imagine you doing, where you're
Yeah.
taking they come in and they say, "I have this problem with blank," and you're like, "Mm, are you sure that's all of it? Because that feels like there's some more foundation that we need to dig into, or that feels like we need to go over here and look at this flower first and see if that does anything." And that to me is the beautiful visualization I'm getting with your facilitation, that
Totally.
you are able to sort of um intuitively but empathically see what the person needs and be able to sort of guide them down that path. I love it.
That's exactly it. And I always laugh too because people, they walk in the door, aka the Zoom room, and they're like, I need this, or I'm working on love, or I'm working on money. And I'm like, great, yes, yes, we will. Like, we will hit that. And then, at the end of whether it's a session or a journey together, they're like, why are we talking about my nerve? Like, I didn't expect us to be talking about my nervous system, or, oh my God, I walked into this talking about pleasure and I'm talking about my money patterns, or, oh my God, I unleashed a memory for when I was 7 years old, so you hit the nail on the head. It's like so much, like with that example with Tony Stark, like that's exactly it. It's like we
Yeah,
go in, like there's a gateway, and it's so much richer, deeper than we could have ever expected.
because honestly, at least in my experience, when someone's willing to do the work, when they're coming in and they think they know what they're looking at, that's the whole reason they're there, is so
Yeah.
that somebody can help lead them down the path of what that looks like and hold their hand so that they don't feel like they're going to fall off a cliff at any time. It is really an important piece of the puzzle. And I love that you're talking about being in a Zoom room. There's so much of this process that I feel like people say, well, I don't know anybody locally that blank.
Hmm.
And that doesn't necessarily fit with our worldview anymore.
Yeah.
We wouldn't know each other if it weren't for the internet. So to me, the impact that we can have is so much more exponentially bigger than we give it credit for, because we can still reach each other. We can still have a connection, even if we're not in the same room. Lee, Ange and Erica will be in the same room, but
Yes.
this moment we are not. But
Yep.
you know what I'm saying, that
Yeah.
that is the important thing. So take us to the next stage. So you're laying in bed and you're looking at your Buddha picture, and you hear a voice come to you and give you the message of sacred sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what that means to you, and what that means, what that should mean to the audience.
Yeah, I think it for everyone it's different, but for me, I'm going to give a kind of a roundabout answer. I always thought sexuality and money and all these things were different entities. And what I came to find is, right, I was doing all this deep spiritual work, like I said, those early years of my coaching, yoga, and like all of these deep, Ayurveda, all these deep spiritual practices, and they were life changing. And what I didn't know could be a thing was that for me, sacred sexuality was actually the quickest and most potent for me journey into spirituality and into self-reflection. Because as you know, wow, we have a lot of stories, we have a lot of conditioning around sexuality or sensuality or pleasure that it was I couldn't run. You know what I mean? Like that was right in my face. Like when I went to embark on that journey, there was no hiding. And what I'll give a quick example, how do I say this? How I relate to pleasure is very much how I show up in the world. And that was very confrontational of like, oh, I don't even feel comfortable to sip it and enjoy my tea, or I don't even feel comfortable to enjoy a nice touch on my arm while watching a movie. And I learned quickly, oh, I have some stuff coming up with my nervous system. Oh, follow the thread. I have stuff with my nervous system. Oh, I don't feel fundamentally worthy of feeling good. Oh, I've had so much trauma. It doesn't feel safe in my body to hold goodness. So it's like, people say, oh, sacred sexuality, that's like a thing that one day, it's on the bookshelf, I'll get to it. And for me, I'm like, wow, if you want to ride about, self-help or going inward, spirituality, this is such a ride to take because it's quite literally right in your face. Not in an aggressive way, but you're like, whoa, like there's no hiding from it.
And it is so, we're holistic beings.
Yes.
We to your point about things feeling like they were in separate buckets, and then realizing there's this common theme, and the common theme is I am not safe if I am happy. I am not safe if I am experiencing pleasure or joy or any of the positivity. I'm not safe in those moments. And so that is a huge thing to understand, that affects every decision that you make.
Totally.
Money, job,
Yep.
relationship, health, any of those things, any of those big buckets that we tend to focus on are all undermined by whether or not you feel like you are worthy of
Yeah,
that. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that
absolutely.
the right way?
Absolutely. And this is such a deep conversation, but I'll just give you something that just popped into my head. Um, Even for me, pretend, right? Like it was a great bridge, like how I was doing yoga, and I love yoga. And I have since, which is so funny because I'm such a hyper person, but like as a sidebar, as like a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old, I made my mom get me VCRs of yoga. She's like, what? Which was so not like cool at the time, but or like as mainstream. And for a hyperactive kid, you're like, so it's that practice has been in my life, my whole, a big chunk of my life, I should say. But for me, let's go on the yoga example or meditation or peace. We'll say peace in general, feeling peace in the body. I could go to a yoga class and feel like, whoa, like I finally could feel myself breathe. I finally could feel myself be present and be in the moment. But then 10 minutes later, I'm back into, and sometimes whatever, that there's nuance there. But for me, pleasure was, how do I say, it keeps me kind of accountable in the moments to moments, because you can't be in deep pleasure or deep presence if you're in the future or you're in the past. You can't.
With you.
You
Yeah.
can't, so it's like, again, people are like pleasure or sacred sexuality. And I'm like, these are like core fundamental spiritual beliefs, right? Like being present, like they're all, it's so funny because we think, because we have so much conditioning. Oh, it's dirty. It's bad. There's actually so many like spiritual principles in the work of sacred sexuality or sensuality or pleasure as a modality in general. So I know I went I went off the rails there, but I'm like, because I think that's part of it, right? It's like, what is sacred sexuality? And again, for me, yes, it could be quite literally sex or sexuality, but for the thing that I am obsessed with most is the conversation about pleasure and rewriting, I should say, rewriting what that story is. Because we have so many stories, we have so many tales, there's so much conditioning around that. For me, where I'm like, oh, I get jazzed is using pleasure as a healing modality.
And understanding that at its core, there is, back to what we were just talking about, that safety is the core. That is
Yeah.
the underlying current to so many things that we are feeling, and again, the decisions that we make. It's so critical. And while I get tingly, I start to get goosebumps when you start to say sacred sexuality. I think, oh man, that is a big topic. That might be, I might need to add an asterisk to the end of this show notes to tell people that we're going to talk about sex. That's
Right.
not really what you're doing. I mean, that's
100%.
why I love the point that you're making, is that it is about this idea that we are allowed to be happy. We are allowed to experience pleasure and excitement and uh, whatever other good name you want to give to an emotion, whatever those look
Exactly.
like for you. That you can do those things, and what lights you up,
Yep.
what are you passionate about, those things, and allow yourself to feel those things. I am just feeling myself get very emotional right now, just thinking about the concept of how much we hold ourselves back due to that lack of safe feeling, that lack of security. Um, what can we do to start that process ourselves? I'm not in any way suggesting that we don't ever use Erica as
Okay. Of course.
our coach and our amazing facilitator. But what can we do right now to sort of get out of the dark room and
Mm.
be able to start seeing the light again?
I love it. I'm like, oh, you said so many things. I'm like, I have so many thoughts. Like, it's such a good conversation because that's the beauty of this too. A sidebar, and I'll come back. But that's the shame in this work, and that's what the work that I have to do, because people are like, oh, that's nice, and we just miss it. Like you said, it's like, oh, should I put a disclaimer? Should I this? And it's like, oh, I'll say one thing because my ADHD, I have to say this, and I'll go back. It's like I'm when you were talking, I'm even thinking about, let's just go to sexuality. Like, let's just go there for a second. Oh my gosh, again, talking about confrontational. If you have some stuff going on with your body and you think, "Oh, I'm not mean to my body." Oh, it's going to be up. You know what I mean? Like that, meaning like you're going to be like, "Oh, I'm talking mean about my body," or I have shame, or I feel this part of my body is gross. There's no hiding. And so I think what you're saying is like that's exactly it, because often I talk about my work and they're like, "Oh, she's like a sex coach." It's like, yeah, sure,
I
there's
can
yeah, we talk that happens too. Like if God bless if it comes up and I'm like, the stuff that I'm really interested in is this like deep soulful and that stuff is also beautiful, but like I'm obsessed with what we're getting under. So let's get into like the tips and tricks. I think you nailed it, because I always think of it like turning myself on like a light switch. Like bring, like putting the light is on or the light is off. And before we go there, I don't want to bypass the crunch. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we're feeling crunchy, and how do I say this? It's not appropriate to bypass. However, we also don't want to get stuck in saying, "Oh, it's not appropriate for me to be turned on right now." So Aaron, it's not appropriate for me to be in my light. So we have to be like very discerning of, hey, do I need some emotional regulation? Do I need a good cry? Do I need to write my journal? So before we jump into the turn on radiance tools, I'm always like, what do we need first and foremost, right? Like, is it like I do need some processing, or like I feel okay, it's time to turn on. So I'll give you my first tool, which actually goes to this. I have clients check in throughout the day. Sometimes they set alarms, sometimes they just remember, and I have them check in and check with their body, and they ask themselves, am I feeling like contracted, crunchy, like in a ball, or am I feeling turned on? And turned on again is just like the light switch is on. Maybe your shoulders are rolled back, maybe you're feeling confident. And if they're feeling crunchy or crusty, I'm like, cool, that's okay. Happens all day long. Like, that's normal. I want us to imagine like a dial. We're just like dialing up to get closer to turn on. So it, sometimes it's not the vibe if you're at the DMV or you're at these places to then like shimmy or what, you know what I mean? Like that might not be the vibe, but maybe it's like, you know what? Like if I'm going to dial this up 1 or 2 knots, if you will, you know what? I'm at work. I'm just getting stuff done. I just have capacity for 1 or 2. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of water. I'm going to roll my shoulders back. And you know what? I have to get these proposals out, but I'd like to listen to some like autumn jazz in the background. Great. So we don't always have to be a 10. It's just about having awareness, having consciousness. Like, where am I? Like, am I even breathing? You know what I mean? Am I holding my breath? Am I like in anxiety? Like, where am I on the scale? And then can I crank it up just a little bit? And so the question becomes, how can I add more pleasure to the situation? It's finding the magic.
And realizing that, to your point, with appropriate boundaries, that
Exactly.
every situation can have more. Every
Yes.
situation can take one step toward a pleasurable
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
And it is, as soon as you said DMV, I immediately thought you're at a funeral. Like
Yes.
you're in this, like you're surrounded by a bunch of people. You know what the social norm is. You have to respond in the socially appropriate way.
Yep.
But you also want to not stay there. You don't want to be stuck there. You want to energetically expand. And that is what I think is so cool about this concept is
Yes.
it's so much more than the words we use. It's bigger than that.
It
Yeah.
is. And when I talk about this work, I often say, I'm like, it's like an energetic adjustment. Like it's like a chiropractic adjustment, but it's right. Like it's a very, like a small tweak. It's an energetic adjustment of sorts. And also this is confrontational because like you said something so beautiful. Oh, it rubs up against us taking up space. It rubs up us, rubs us, or whatever, rubs up on us being taking up space, but also being appropriate. Which I'm like, oh, I'm so glad you said that because we hold stories, right? Like, oh, I'm at the DMV. It's inappropriate for me to be too radiant. And I think that's important that actually we all take inventory of like, where am I? It's so funny you said this. I just wrote a blog about this the other day. Like, where am I capping myself off? Right? Like, where am I putting a lid on myself? Because here's the thing it's like, we have family, we have, people in our community, whether it's family, friends, colleagues, whatever, that we have kind of like a contract with, like an energetic, unspoken contract where it's like, if I'm a little bit too bright, is that going to shake this? And it goes primal. Like think about our roots, like cave, like primal roots. Survival was dependent on us being exactly like you're good.
Yes.
100%. So it's like, even if I had this desire to do this, it's like this community is keeping me safe to be alive. So like, I don't really have a choice. Like I don't have a choice. So this fear is primal within us, though we know we're like, oh, I can, it's still a fear in our bodies and our nervous system. Like I can't really shake the sacred or the how do I say the contract within us. And so this is also, I love that you brought it up because we do monitor, we do censor ourselves, like what's appropriate. Like I have to, be appropriate. I have to match the energy. I don't want to, and a lot of women feel too, I don't want to feel so good that I trigger other women. Because it's like as women, we bond over sometimes what's going wrong. It's like, oh, I know it's the word, like it's the word, like that's how we communicate, and there's a holy space for that, right? Like that's appropriate sometimes to be like, oh my god, I see you, like let's get into this. And it's often we don't bond about the good stuff. So I'm so glad you brought that up because this is some of the conditioning.
Usually bond over the good stuff.
Oh no.
So You have blown my mind right now. I mean, you see it on my face, obviously. I just keep like my eyes keep getting bigger and I keep nodding because the cap, the
Yes.
lid is so real.
Yeah.
You're bringing it out of me today, friend. I like that is such a real thing. People say a lot, I'm too big for the room.
Mm,
Concept of I'm too big for the room. And that is something that I have been working on most of my adult life is how to keep the lid on. How
yes.
to keep the lid on and not go crazy in the meantime. And what this work has taught me in the past, however long I've been doing this show, is that that is where my biggest work lives,
Mm,
is in that concept of how to be appropriate, but also how to stretch those appropriate limits a little bit. Because most of what I bring to the table in terms of appropriateness are things I learned when when I had an underdeveloped brain
yeah.
and an underdeveloped nervous system, and then being able to carry that construct until you're 50. I'm just going to tell you right now, just in case you want to know, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna just so
We just
that
let you know.
foreshadowing, Erica, it doesn't work. So that is, I'm really feeling that that shift. I've another thing that a previous guest used to say is once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Well,
Totally.
especially when it comes to grief, when you've had a traumatic experience or you've had a life altering experience, even if it wasn't per se trauma in your vernacular, you you can't now go back. There is
Hmm.
no new this is a new normal, but
Yep.
this is not the same. You cannot go back.
You can.
I feel like you just grabbed my hand and we just jumped like 5 spaces ahead on the
Yes.
floor because
Yes.
that is such a major shift in terms of how we see ourselves and what we bring to the table.
Yeah.
Um, honestly, I just keep visualizing being at the DMV and like jumping up and start dancing or something. I
Right.
just started following this gentleman on Instagram, and that's his concept is that he just like goes into crowded
Yes,
areas
I
and
love him. I know who you're talking.
has
Yes.
a little portable speaker
Yes.
and he just pops it down and then just starts, and people just join. They just
Yes.
do it. And that is so beautiful to just see people be uninhibited in that way.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to talk this much.
I love it. I love
The
it's so
concept,
profound.
yes,
Yeah.
but so simple at the same time that
Yes.
what you are allowing us to do is to say, I am allowed to take up space
Mhm. Mhm.
in my normal capacity, whatever. If that looks like I'm dancing all the time, that is what I am allowed to bring to the space. I am
Ye
allowed to be there. I've brought this up on previous episodes before that I realized probably about 6 or 8 months ago that I was intentionally moving out of the way at the grocery store.
Oh my god, I can't believe you just said that. I was just gonna give you an example about that. Yes. Yeah.
That I see someone coming down the aisle and I move over
Yep.
instead of continuing and us finding space together. I stop, and it is profoundly foundational to
Yes.
how I behave in the world. So if we want to explore removing the cap,
Mm.
removing the lid, you probably would not recommend, you may, that's where I'm going with this. What would you recommend in terms of level of removal of the lid? Like, I
Mm.
imagine that, like, I'm this can of those snakes, those place
Yes.
that, like, you take the top of and it would shoot everywhere, or like a Jack in the Box. That's sort of what I'm envisioning, and that's because I'm profoundly shifted by what you said. So,
Yes.
how can we easily and gently put ourselves in that space to be able to find that awareness, find those boundaries, but also stretch them a little bit?
I love that. I'm gonna name something first. and then we'll go back. Because I think what you're also mentioning about the putting the lid on, there's different words, there's different terminology, but in my world and what we use a lot, it's called good girl conditioning. So I'm like, man, that's gonna be for another day. But I'm like, I have to mention that because I think that like the good girl conditioning of I'm not gonna take up space. I'm going to. I track myself all the time, and I'm like, what the? I've been doing this for so long, and I'm like, oh, let me make someone comfortable. Let me move out of the way. Like, yeah, there's all these ways that we make ourselves small and appropriate and tidy. And I'm thinking about the DMV example again. It's like, oh my God, the energetics that we use before we even enter a space to be like, this is the energy. Ooh, it's crusty, dusty. Don't be too radiant. Don't be like, be appropriate. Follow the, like it's, oh, the amount of hours and energy that we have spent to feel into spaces and people to make sure that we are following status quo is like it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because it's like,
It is.
it's like and we put in so much work to silence ourselves and to
Energetic. It's exhausting.
it's exhausting.
So much work
Yep.
to stay in the box and
In the
not
box
the top off the box
and keep it kosher, make people feel comfortable and let and it's a lot of what we're talking about. Again, nuance, but a lot of what we're talking about is that good girl conditioning. Be a good girl, be agreeable, nod your head, be but A, B, and C. Like that is what we're kind of speaking about right now. Which I think is, ooh, it's so deeply entrenched. But I'm so glad you brought it up because someone might listen to this conversation and be like, "Oh, pleasure's great. I'm down for this." But then we rub up against. I mean, I've been teaching this work for years, and I still hit like, where did this come from? Like, where did this conditioning or where did this story come from? Because it's so deeply entrenched in how we show up. But going back to the snake example, it kind of is personal for different people. Some people, they're like, I'm ready to pop off. Like, take off the lid. Like, I want the snakes to fly. Like, I want, and I have capacity for that radical level. Other people are different, right? And this is I think the beauty of facilitation, like you said, the one-on-one. Some people like, that feels so unsafe. That will trigger me deeply. I want to still take the cap off, but like maybe the snakes don't fly. So kind of my job, right, is like to feel into, where are you at? Are you like, Erica, whip off the cap, like have those snakes fly out? Or would that feel deeply triggering or like unsettling? So each person's kind of different, and we have to feel into like, to which level currently in this season can I unleash or how do I say, show up or turn on? But we always want to keep that as a priority, right? It's like the objective is turn on, be in my radiance. How do I do it in a way that feels safe? How do I do it in a way that, sometimes clients, if they had been endured so much trauma, I'll say like, we're microdosing. So like, they might be like, I can't hold, like I can't hold, Erica. Like, I can't hold going to a date night or a movie. Like, that feels too much. I'm like, great. Let's do it for 2 minutes. Can we hold pleasure in our body for 2 minutes? Can you really be with that cup of coffee for 2 minutes? Yes, great. And then they're like, I'm done. Okay, great. We're out for a second.
Tomorrow we'll try 3.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So some people are like, I could get in. Whoo, this is triggering. This is new, but okay, I'm out. And some people are like, rip me, like, let's go. Like, I've been waiting for this. I'm ready. So everyone's different depending on what they're going through, the seasons, the cycles. But I think that's an important part of the conversation, is like, to which we want to interact with it, to where are you nervous system, body wise, brain wise, that would feel safe and sustainable. Sustainable is a big one too.
Because it has to be, right? That's the whole point of the work, is so that you can expand.
Yes.
That would be ultimately my goal, would be to be able to expand it, because I don't just want to pull the lid off once.
The accolade. I've been in so many seasons where it's like, I had this like, whoa, like the summer of seasons, like the snakes flying out, and I'm like, this is amazing. And it's like, yeah, and then stuff got real. I know my personal journey, like, lost my father and stuff. Like, oh my, that's not sustainable in that. You know what I mean? And again, I'm very grateful for those peaks and valleys. But what was, after the loss of my dad, it wasn't summer vibe. It wasn't snakes shooting out. It was a much different flavor profile or pleasure profile than that season. Like that season, things were cool in my life. So I could kind of like snake out. Being in deep grief, I was like, yeah, like, no. Like I'm using this as like a bomb to just get through the next moment. So I love that you said that. It's like we don't want this to just be like a tool or a thing that we interact with for a little bit and then we shelf it again. It's like, no, God willing that this is a new way of being and we integrate it within ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, I think that um, is ultimately the work that we have to get to. And I go back to your original example of being able to just turn the dial up one or two
Mm-hmm.
steps. We're not looking to peg the needle right
Yeah.
away
Right.
necessarily. Some, like you said, some people, they're in for that. They're energetically ready to do that. But for the most part, I know I would not be able to do that for very long. I wouldn't
Right.
be able to sustain that for very long because I'm not used to
Yes.
having that kind of energy and that kind of pleasure for any sustained amount of time. It would
Right.
last about like, flash in the pan is the
Yep.
word that's, like it would be like an 8.2 second
Yep.
explosion and be like, oh, okay, now I'm exhausted. I have to go to bed
Right.
because you have to build up that ability again. We don't, when we've capped it for so long. And that's been my experience too, is that I don't remember a time where I wasn't capped.
Mm,
And so that goes back to your good girl kind of concept that um, when you have it for so long, you're going to have to relearn it anyway. It's
mm-hmm.
not just about throwing the lid off and letting the snakes fly out or slither away or whatever they do when you take the lid off. But it's about letting you're going to have to understand your own situation enough to be able to know this is going to take more than just one event of allowing everything to go. And I think that's what we want so much, especially in our Western culture. We want so much to just have this instant
Yep.
now. We want
Mm-hmm.
a tool. We found the person, we found the coach that's going to help us uncap and go crazy. But it's not that simple because it isn't just about the one event, to your point.
Yeah,
I really, really love that.
I have to say it's a sidebar, but it reminds me of this. One of my teachers, her name is Regina Thomashower, and she has great work, great books to check out. And she would say, I'm butchering it, but she would say how I interpreted it was pleasure, and this work is one of the easiest things to conceptually understand. Like, got it, easy, but putting it into practice
Not.
yeah, because it's we're hitting all of our things. And I think about her. I've lots of amazing teachers and people in my life, and when I did her work, it's funny. Speaking of her, she would do big events like thousands of women or 1,000 women, and like big events, and she's amazing in that space. And often, like I help volunteer. I think a few times, a handful of times, and I remember women would say like, "What did she eat for lunch?" I'm like, what? Or women to say, what did she eat for lunch? Or what dress is she wearing? Or what, oh, I saw her, whatever. And me and my friend that worked, volunteered in the same position, we always talked about that because we were like, wait. And we're like, oh my God, it makes sense because you see someone living in this and you want to outsource it. So folks often, or women, would see her being radiant, being lit up. And it was like, wouldn't it be easier if I just got the dress? Or like if I got the sweet green salad if I had what she had for lunch, or she got that dress or that, we got asked all the time, what ring is she wearing? Or do you know who her makeup artist, this, I was like, wait, what? And then we started to put it together. We're like, it's so much easier to be like, you're fabulous. I'm going to outsource.
Yeah. I don't have to be me then. I can be
Ex-
you. I
exactly.
can short circuit the success track and get there and not have the pain of it in my experience because I don't think I'm going to be able to be okay as me in that role. That's so, again, blowing my mind, dear
Yeah.
friend. Like it's speaking to the Ange, because that is exactly, that's exactly what I go through all the
Right.
time. That is the ultimate. If we can boil down imposter syndrome, that to me is what it boils down to.
Right.
Is that we don't really know what our capacity is. But when we see somebody else do it, we think, well, if I can emulate that, then maybe that would be the capacity or that container that I could sort of fit myself into so that I could have that too. And that isn't, you're not going to get there about that way, but
Right. And you nailed something. I'm like, wait, I have to say this, bringing it back to the pleasure. It's like, I understand the impulse, right? I mean, this is a fabulous, take any celebrity or whatever. Like, sure, I get it. Especially, I understand the impulse of, let's take, Regina, she did such a fabulous job. I understand why that's like our natural, folks' natural inclination. What ring is she wearing or what dress? And we were like, what? And I'm like, oh, this makes sense. And because like you said, it's like, okay, it could look like this. But the real shame in it, because I've done this too to different folks or exterior situations. I'm like, if I just could put myself in that, but then we're robbing ourselves of ourselves. And we're talking about pleasure. We're robbing ourselves of
the
our
whole
pleasure.
world. Yeah.
Exactly. But, and you know what I mean? Like, so pretend I'm copying this teacher. Okay, great. Maybe I feel a little bit more confident. Maybe I feel a little bit more inspired. But why that person's so fabulous is they are following their pleasure. They're following their internal map that lights them up. That's not our map. Like we could be blown away, like, oh my God, I'm so impressed by you that you're following your map. Like we have a different map to follow. And I know it's enchanting and it feels easier to like, I want to follow their map, but it's like, it's what about our map? Like our map is just as sparkly, fabulous, so many gemstones, but we have to give ourselves the space to do that. You know what I mean? I know that sounds, but like,
No, we
yeah,
have to define the map. We have to
yes,
uncover it, draw it. Any of those analogies, we have to actually create the map, and you can't circumvent the map making process and jump ahead. It has to be yours. And that is so powerful because it may feel unmotivating to people. They
yes,
may hear that and think, it's so hard. You're right,
right,
but it's worth it. And so
100%.
there's this thing that we have to, and again, that's so hard, is taking the pleasure out of it. If
Yes,
we can still look at those moments where we can dial it up 1 or 2 steps, even in the hard, we're gonna find our path all
yeah,
by ourselves, and that is so incredibly, I don't know what level is above mind blown. I don't know what that level is, because I don't know what the word is. It's not coming into my brain, so we're just gonna call it +1. Mind blown
yes.
+1, and then just go there, because to me, that is so sacred to be able to get to that place.
Right,
Love that. Yeah.
right.
Okay.
I know so many good things, right?
So many good things and so many ways that this just leads us to this point in the conversation. Whereas, how can we work with you? How can we
Mm.
find you to do this work ourselves?
Love. So for me, I'm very about the seats to get into the hands of every person. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, hi, like this every person, if they so choose this path, I want, everyone deserves it. And so for me, I have an assortment of free things, free goodies. And some people are like, I don't want to interact with you. That feels too much. Or so I've created, like we talked about, right? Like different options for different folks. So, what do I have? I have a podcast, I have a blog, and I have a very short ebook. And the ebook is called From Perfectionist to Pleasure Expert, all of which are on my website, which is wethelight.org. So if you're like, you know what, I don't really want to talk to her, but like I want to get in the book, or you know what, let me start with the blog, or I'm going to listen to the podcast. Like, however, people, like we talked about capacity, someone might be like, book me a free session, or someone might be like, I'm going to do a free session, but like, let me read some blog, like let me feel safe into this. So there's different arrays. And then the pop the snakes off moment, and we do it safely, but the pop the snakes off moment, I offer free sessions, and some months I close them, some I open them. So if I'm in the season of having the free sessions, I'm always like, take it, because I close my calendar. So those are free sessions. They're quite literally no strings attached. Like they really are no strings attached. And what we do in that, it's a free coaching session. So we'll act as if it's a session, as if you're a client. And I'll give you homework. We'll really start to get in there and do what we got to do. And at the end, if it feels like, oh, this is a vibe, let's talk further, we talk. If you're like, I feel complete, I'll chat with you in 4 months. Great. Or if you're like, I really love this, Erica, I'm actually looking for a male coach, or I'm looking for this. Great. Let's talk about it. Like, if it's not with me, all good. I'm happy to pass you to someone else, or I'm happy, whatever. It really is a no strings attached conversation. So I always say to people, like, take me up on it, because it's not always available, So, and it's a free coaching session, and we really go in there and get what we have to do. And that you can find on my website as well. So wethelight.org.
wethelight.org. Love it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing your energy full Erica to the table, and letting us experience just a fraction of what we could do with this. This is so cool. So
Thank
cool.
you. We could talk for 6 hours. This was amazing. So thank you.
I know. I love it.